it's really difficult to actually measure quantitatively how much disinformation there is. And that's in part because the social media companies, not all of them have been extremely forthcoming with the data about how much they're taking down, what they're finding, what's being reported to them versus the content moderation decisions that they're making. And so researchers like me are forced to use open source data to kind of make inferences about this. But what I can say is that since I've been studying this problem, so since 2015, 2016, and 2017, when I was living in Ukraine, watching the US election from Kyiv, it was a wild time to be in Ukraine, let me tell you that. Certainly, I think the scope of this problem has grown. We have moved from seeing foreign actors meddling in our elections to kind of a constant bombardment of our informational ecosystem, not just from foreign actors, but from homegrown disinformers as well. We've seen foreign actors turn to information laundering. We see disinformation for profit and disinformation for hire, in fact. So I think the scope of the problem is only growing because, unfortunately, we've been quite reticent to regulate this industry for good reason. You know, we want to protect freedom of expression, but our lack of movement in that area has created a bigger hole for us to patch up in the coming years.
So the open society clearly has its enemies. Let's ask our viewers. We actually did. We asked our viewers who they thought was to blame: creators, social media platforms, or consumers. Now, I'm curious what your answer would be.
Well, I think it's really difficult to kind of apportion that blame in some ways. I do agree with what Ginny said, that everybody to some extent is to blame. Yes, the creators of disinformation are to blame, but would it travel with the velocity and the amplification that it does if social media companies didn't have an incentive to have content that is enraging on their platforms? I like to say the most engaging content is the most enraging content. That's certainly what we heard from Frances Haugen last week in Congress. But also, I'm a big proponent, and I'm sure we'll hear Yasmin and Rick talk about this later, of media literacy and information literacy. There are so many people who don't understand at this point why they're being served certain content, and the fact that they are being manipulated, frankly, not only by the social media companies, but by those creators of disinformation. I think we all need to kind of collectively put our guard up and understand that we're the first line of defense to some of this stuff spreading.